Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir.
So after we go on the good session,
I know, right?
I'm assuming y'all agree.
that's the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan, yeah. But I don't have a contract for you. I was hoping to have a sample of what it's gonna look like, but they're still, we've been dealing with the consultant. We finished it up last week. The principal to the I can give you important.
Close, but
Not quite there.
Hey, Miss Brandon. How you doing? Doing okay?
all right, we'll go ahead and call the May meeting to order. John, will you give us a word of prayer, please?
Absolutely. Y'all please pray with me. Dear Lord, we thank you for this beautiful afternoon that you blessed us with. Lord, we thank you for the organization that you put us in charge of. And Lord, we ask that the decisions we make this afternoon pleasing in your sight. In his name we pray. Amen. Before we do anything else, do you mind getting that thing? You do love me, don't you?
What's that?
You do love me, don't you? Today happens to be our chairman's birthday today.
It's supposed to go unnoticed.
So, we need to sing happy birthday to the chairman now.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jeff. Happy birthday to you.
Now, or
How old are you?
I can't tell you.
25, right, Jeff? 25.
25, yeah.
if anybody would like to go ahead and get them a piece now and munch on while we're eating, or?
Thank you.
A piece of the.
Yeah, I'll take one for executive session.
All right.
No more surprises.
No more surprises. The minutes for our April 13th meeting, do we have any additions or corrections to those? If not, do I have a motion for approval?
So move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
I just found here that there's a Jeffrey Thompson having a birthday in Lawrence today at 54.
I'm passing on to you. I'm trying to figure out how my pen's supposed to work. I think it's Yep. How are you, pen?
You can have that.
All right, thank you.
Have to approve on that pen.
We're gonna have to put this in the budget. Put some in the pens.
Sir?
Okay, John is going to do our divisional report.
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the electric division, we did assist Bravo. They were at Hunter Park. They were installing some large pieces of equipment out there or machinery. And we had to go out on early Sunday morning and take all the power down so that they could get in and get these machines hooked back up, and went back later on and got the power back going for them. We removed the transformer that's been over here at the school district office. It's been giving us some problems, so we took that out. put a new one in and sent the one that was there off to be rehabilitated and all that. But somebody thinks, they were saying that it looked like it was probably put in the 80s maybe or 90s, so it's been there for a long time and time to change it out. We're still having problems with the generator out here. How long ago did the episode occur that created all the problem? Was it a year ago, 2 years ago?
Going on a year ago.
Anyway, we have a contract where they come out and do preventive maintenance. They change the oil and do all the things you do. And whenever they went to put the drain plug back in the oil pan, they stripped it out. And the thing has leaked ever since then, somewhere around there. They've been out how many times, Blake? Multiple. They put a new oil pan on and it still leaks and we paid a lot of money for that. So we think the only thing they can do is put a new engine in it, but we'll see. I don't know why, but we'll put a piece of paper down up under it and within a day or two, it's got oil on it. So, you pay that much for a brand new engine, you'd think it wouldn't leak oil like that. But anyway, just to let you know, we're dealing with it. Let's see. In the Water and Sewer Division, we have completed several fairly major sewer repair works on Hooker Avenue, Watts Avenue, and Owing Street. We have made several repairs at the Lake Raven Pump Station, and everything is complete at the water plant except for one of the pumps. We're still waiting on the motor for that. But the other two are ready to go, and we're going to start testing that here pretty soon. So probably mid-June, we'll be able to fire up the new water tank and try out everything. So anyway, but it's going to be probably another month or two before we get the full, all three pumps working. We have three. Typically, they only use one at a time, but we have spares and that sort of thing. So in the natural gas division, last week, the contractor that's working for us replacing natural gas lines hit the sewer line on Hillcrest Baptist Church up here on Independence. And it was not good, and to the point where they had to cancel church on Mother's Day because of it. And anyway, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow with the contractor, and part of the problem is when they hit things like this, they expect us to come out and fix it, which is okay as long as we have time and all that, but they need to have somebody on standby, another plumber, that when they hit these things, that they can come, because you can't always come out in the middle. And according to Will, this is going to be a pretty big job to fix this sewer for the church, and we just don't have we don't have the time to do it really. So we're going to get them to make sure it's fixed correctly and all that. But I just wanted you to be aware of it. Right now, they're working mainly on replacing service lines. That's going from the main at the street to the house, and they've got several. You can see all the streets there that they've been working on for that. But that's really slow going, and it's very difficult because we don't mark anything in people's yards, and this is going from the street to their house. So you got sewer lines, you got water lines, you got everything that actually belongs to the customer. And it's just very difficult to avoid hitting things. So anyway, they've been pretty good so far, but they have hit sewer lines and water lines and irrigation lines and things like that. So we're going to have another meeting with them tomorrow to try to minimize some of that going forward.
They run a new line all the way from the new main.
Yeah, to the.
One time they tried to run a line through the.
No, they're putting in new plastic lines and.
Too hard to locate if they do. If they insert them, it's too hard to locate.
Let's see, the administrative division, I don't know if you saw in the social media or whatnot, but we had the CPW employees out on Earth Day, picking up trash all over town. I think the total was over 1,800 pounds of trash we picked up that day, so.
I can vouch that John and Blake
Actually saw
were
it.
actually picking up trash. The only thing I can say is they were on Bryson Drive, and I know somebody
it's
that
probably one of
lives on Bryson Drive, so
It's probably one of the dirtier streets,
I heard on the way to school they throw the beer bottles out to the left and the liquor bottles go out to the right. So those teachers over there are having a rough time.
We don't know if it's going to school or getting away from school when they leave. So, but there's a lot of liquor bottles and beer bottles, and I had nothing to do with any of them. We are continuing to work through the funding request for the PHMSA grants. We just got a lot going on, and it's just, there's a lot of things that we've been working with. And I'll let Blake talk a little bit about the FEMA grants. I mean, we got through all the Fed revisions and requests for information and all of that, and then we get to the state level, and they seem to be more difficult than the feds are. Just wanting just minute details on all these different things, and it's just kind of really getting almost to the point where we said, well, maybe we just need to have a sit down and talk with Danny Bird and see if he can make some phone calls and kind of get them, because how much have we got outstanding from FEMA?
Around $4 million.
And Helene was, what, a year and a half ago? So that's a little bit, especially since the feds have already signed off on it, so anyway. And our IT department is working on an updated cybersecurity policy and an AI policy. They're telling us that now we need a policy for all of the employees regarding the use of AI, because I think AI really makes Travis nervous using it, and there are a lot of issues with it right now. To be honest, I don't understand all of them, but Travis knows a whole lot more about it than I do. So,
What is AI?
artificial intelligence.
I know that, but what do they? When you talk about replacing a human, I don't know what.
It's putting a bunch of computers together to do the same thing. Is that a fair analogy? So it's like a supercomputer that uses a bunch of resources. That's what these data centers are. Is they'll, and a data center may have 1,000 computers in there, and they're all kind of working together. And I don't really understand it, Gerald, to be honest with you.
I mean, it's kind of scary, but I have heard that like a pastor could put in an AI, write me a sermon on this scripture, and in about 30 seconds later, there's a 3-page paper on a sermon on that particular passion and scripture in the Bible, or anything like that. I'm sure, and I don't know how these students are. It could write you a paper for school probably in about 10 seconds. How the school knows it's not AI or it is AI.
There is a program that can do that.
Okay.
And I heard a lot of lawyers complain about it too, that a lot of people have tried to use AI to create wills and all kind of stuff.
I haven't heard that.
I bet it's happened.
Sure does. But you can tell. I've read things before, and I can say that's AI. Just the way it sounds. People just don't write things like that. Not legal documents. I just read things in papers and stuff. I just say it's just not. There's just something not right about it.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about the reports? All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. We have Gary Bailey with us from Love Bailey to do our 2025 financial audit.
All right. Thank you. You have the audit report in front of you and the folder. I won't go through the entire audit report. I'll have the PowerPoint there, but in the folder, I do have this PowerPoint in case you want to go back and reference. And I like trends, and so I have the balance sheet and income statement. So 7 years of data, audited data for the last 7 years for the CPW. So that's what I like. I just like to see those trends, see which direction you're going in. And talking about FEMA, we usually present this a month or so earlier, but just working away to get all of the FEMA stuff together for this audit, because you did have to have a single audit this year for two different programs, one for grants, some of the skip money, and then the other is for the FEMA, so that took a little bit longer. So, but you did have a good year. See how close I need to be. There we go. We did issue an unmodified or clean opinion. We didn't have any material weaknesses, no sufficient significant deficiencies, no compliance issue, single audit or federal program issues. So that's what you want to receive. Really, your books are always in good order. We may have a journal entry or two, like true nut depreciation or the pension out of Columbia, something like that, but no journal entries that changed the financials as a whole that you're seeing at every board meeting. So that's good. And I probably shared this with you before. You've seen it in audits. We went in before, we've had to issue 25 to 30 journal entries. Well, at that point, what you're getting in a council meeting is nothing compared to what you're seeing at audit. Not the case here, so I just want to point that out. Just some highlights. Had a 37% increase in net position to 56.7 million. You know, obviously a huge portion of that was all the capital outlay that you had this year. Total assets at $85 million at the end of the year. 16 million from 24. About 52 million of that is capital outlay, capital assets. Another 21 million is unrestricted cash. A really significant increase over 24, up to about 33, a little over 33 million in operating revenue. That does not include any grant dollars. It's just operations, up 8%. And then your unrestricted net position was up 16.4, up from 14.8. Overall revenues, operating revenues are up 8.1%. Operating expenses up about 7.6%. That does not include any storm related. We dropped that down below operating just because that's where your FEMA grants are. So we're just making sure you got true apples to apples when you're looking at operations. But overall, had a total change in net position of 15.2 million after you factor in grant dollars, income from investments, things like that, and then capital outlay. So very good year. This is just a 7-year trend line, which you're very used to. 50% of, roughly 50% of your revenues are coming from electricity, followed by natural gas, water, sewer. And then here's your 7 years. I thought this was really interesting. I'll point a couple of things out. This is your 7 years of operating expenditures. If you notice, which we all know, 19, 20, 21, overall, you can see that's a little bit lower than 22 through 25. Well, in 20, we had that COVID thing happen, and then by the time you get through that, we had a big spike in the cost of everything. And you can see that. If you go back and look at your financials, 19 through 21, your operating revenue, operating expenses, operating revenue less operating expenditures, was roughly about $3 million a year in those years. 22 to 25, it dropped, and 27 was the highest of those 4 years at 1.7, but typically that's going to be 1.3 to 1.7. And the reason for that, and it's not unique to CPW, is all the public utilities can't increase prices fast enough compared to how much the expenses went up. And so I thought that graph really showed that, how COVID hit from 21 to 22, and overnight, all of your expenses just went way up. But from 24 to 25, really your big increase was the cost of utilities. 1.5 million of your increase in expenses last year was natural gas and electricity, which that gets offset with increase in prices. But that's your biggest driver a lot of times, outside of the driver of inflation. A typical year, your biggest driver of expense change is going to be utility purchases. That's about 51% of your total expenses is utility purchase. The other 22%, next biggest 22% is salaries and benefits, and then 9% non-cash depreciation, which in your case this year, that's about $3 million of expense. Non-cash, but thankfully you've been funding it well enough that when we get to the capital outlay, you were able to pay for some of that capital outlay with cash and no new debt. Well, that was the next page. Here's your capital assets. As I said, you're almost at 52 million in capital assets, 13 million net increase after depreciation, but total additions was about $16 million this year. What's really great is you took no debt out to fund that whole 16 million. You were able to obtain grant dollars that paid for a huge portion of those additions, and then the remaining difference you were able to fund internally with your resources, with some of your reserves. At the end of the year, you had about 17.6 million in construction in process. As you know, there's all your major programs there that was still in process. But I just thought it was impressive that you had such a large amount of additions and didn't have to take out any debt to cover that. So that brings me over to liquidity, cash flow. At the end of the year, you had roughly 21.3 million. That was down about 1.3 million from last year. But if you when you get a chance to look through the financials, you'll notice last year's AR, 24 AR versus 25 AR, it's about double. It's about 8 million in AR. But the reason for that is you had 3.8 million in FEMA dollars, still waiting on, and about $1 million in grant dollars. And those are, for the most part, those are expenses you've already covered that you're just waiting to be reimbursed. So once they come in, you don't have much expense, if any, to pay out. You had a little bit of AP at the end of the year, but for the most part, that's adding to cash. So you're just waiting on that to come in. So that's going to strengthen your cash position from where it is, which is already a strong position because you're at about 268 days of cash on hand just from the unrestricted cash. So that should continue to increase with when those FEMA dollars do show up. And that, just looking at other audits and FEMA dollars, seems like 2 years is about the natural window from when you spend the dollars to when you actually get the dollars reimbursed. So pointing out, that's why that 21.3 million is very important. One, obviously it helps the operations, and when you have spike increases of utilities, but also likely you got to put out that $3 and $5 million for storm-related expenses. You got to have that cash to cover that because it's going to be a while before those funds come back in. So sometimes people see that 21 million and think, oh, the CPW is doing great. Yes, but it needs that reserve for future projects, for future storms, future things where you're going to have to put the money out front and then you get reimbursed for it. But liquidity is in a really good position. And as I said, no new debt, which is great. New debt profile, the series 2018 should have been paid off, I think, in January, so that one should be gone. So then you got the 22, 24, and then the state revolving fund. A little bit of a dip in the amortization schedule for 26, but then 27 through 30 right now under the current debt, it's about 1.7 million a year that the CPW has to pay in debt service, interest and principal, which is very manageable under the current operations. As I said, you had two, I thought we just had to do one, but we had to audit two of your programs. The one on the left there is all of the SKIP grants. Those funds come through the state. We have to do a single audit on those, and then the one to the right there is the FEMA money. We had no compliance issues. Blake had all the backup and support. Personally, I hate doing the single audits because it really is a whole nother level of scrutiny that you have to go through. It's like a whole nother audit within the audit, and it's a compliance audit. So all of those ticks and ties have to be done and done correctly. So thankfully you had no findings there on either of those. And then internal controls, you've never had an issue. Really, you do a great job. You have good segregation of duties. We've never had any issues, never seen any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies identified. I feel like you have a good, strong control environment. So no suggestions there. So overall, just a summary of what I had said already, but just a clean audit, no material weaknesses, really good, strong net position growth, great liquidity. And as I said, the AR should continue to add cash once it's comes in. So a lot of information, really organization is financially strong and control in a good place. So with all that being said, I'll take any questions that you might have.
And before that, I want to give Blake and Ashley all the credit. They're the ones that deal with Gary and his folks, and they're always very complimentary of what they do, and appreciate them helping with it.
It's, I could have brought some, and you could see this, John, because I know you have conferences and things, but Public Works is tough, and we do a lot of audits of Public Works where they're really struggling, cash flow wise, really struggling to maintain the services because those costs have increased so much. So to see good liquidity is just, I like to see that good liquidity is good, strong financial health.
Gary, if I could ask the question about internal controls.
Yes.
Several months ago, an entity in the state had paid some bills incorrectly, right? Wired them and those things. We've talked to Blake about it. We thought we got good processes in place, but from your perspective, what's the upper level with our internal controls regarding electronic payment of bills?
I know what you're talking about, and we've looked at that as well, because in some regards, you think that entity was following the controls that they had in place, but the controls just needed to be strengthened. I haven't had, and we asked Sarah, who's our auditor, to look at that, because the timing just kind of worked out when we were working on this audit. So we didn't have any issues. We didn't see any issues. I can't tell you right now. I can email you what exactly those controls are, because Sarah has the memos, but we didn't have any issues with the way you are paying payments. And really the biggest thing is there's a reviewer. One person can set it up, one person reviews it before, or at least it was pre-approved before they pay that bill. That's really what you want to see, is making sure there's two sets of eyes looking at something, so something like that can't happen. And we've not ever found an issue where y'all don't have at least two sets of eyes looking at something. Yeah.
Thank you.
That 260 days of cash on hand, is that pretty significant?
It is, as I was saying earlier, a lot of public works, some of them are working on less than 30 days, which, just, that gets really tough. So 268 days, I like that number for what I said earlier, because that gives you flexibility when something happens and you have to foot cash. It also gives you flexibility when grants come in and you're going to replace something and you got to put, say, 10% match or a match portion to it, and you don't want to get debt service. Also gives you some flexibility. Just overall, just for paying debt service for any kind of hurricane. I know we had the Helene. Don't think about hurricanes up here, but any type of storm that requires you to foot the bill first and then get reimbursed. So that's a great number, but I always hesitate by saying, like, that number gets out there, and then the public says, oh, they got so much money, why are they? But you go back to that slide I was showing earlier, where back in 18, 19, 20, you were doing $3 million from operations, and now you're doing half that, 1.7 million operations. So costs are going up, and costs for new projects are going up.
I'll just add too that when we do need to go borrow money, it's very important to the financial institutions, the days cash on hand. That means a lot to our rate, which ultimately it means a lot to what interest is paid out over the life of the bond. So that's one of the key today's cash on hand.
They don't want to see you using cash to fund operations. So, yeah, when you see you putting some cash from operations, increasing.
Once we collect all our money from FEMA, that cash on hand is going to go up.
It will.
I don't know what it'll go to, but
If I remember correctly, it's roughly $4 million.
Right, and we do have some stuff available, but not.
it could go to 280, 290. I don't know exactly what.
Yeah, I think the last year, 24, it was around 300 days. So the dip really was having to foot these storm-related expenses and not being reimbursed for them. Yeah. So yeah.
Harold, just to let you know, PMPA, every year, we have to submit several financial records, and then they give us an average for all 10 cities, and one of them is days cash on hand, and we usually fall well above average in that particular category. Some of the PMPA cities, I'll tell you, they were going on, like you said, 30, 40 days cash on hand, and it was the cities and not the CPWs that were in that situation.
I do see that a lot when we audit a lot of cities who have the public utilities, especially the ones that have electrical, just like you, they're the ones that struggle the most. The ones that we see that have a stronger financial balance sheet are the independent, like standalone public works. But you're right, the ones that attach to cities seem to struggle the most.
You got any idea how much it costs today to run the commission, how you figure that?
I ran that number, and I don't want to mistell you, but I was thinking it was like $38,000 a day, something like that, because I was running that number just today to recalculate that. Does that sound about right? Yeah, I was thinking about that. Didn't count depreciation expense. I was thinking that. So looking at it from pure cash, pure cash. I was thinking it was about 30. So you kind of think about it. Every month there's $38,000 at the end of the day it costs you to operate CPW. I was individually thinking, it's like, it's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Has anybody got any additional questions for Gary? Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Man. Got a whole bunch of financial.
So Blake is going to do January, February, and March.
You want to vote at the end of each one, or you want to do all, take questions and vote on them all in? What is your pleasure?
We'll just vote on all.
Well, the audit's next month, isn't it? Don't we?
I just went off.
Yeah, we have to review the audit. We have to get home and study this thing later.
There's gonna be a test next month too,
Exactly.
so.
Let's just vote on them at the end.
Okay, all right. First, I did include the FEMA update tracker in your SharePoint, and just want to say that, yeah, while the reimbursements are not coming fast, I mean, there's been a lot of work done the last month. I told some of the folks last week, I think one day I got over 20 emails, in a day, just dealing with FEMA reimbursements with the state and our public assistant consultants. So a lot of work's being done, but not a lot's getting accomplished in a hurry. So we're working hard to make sure we get it back. And just to piggyback on what Gary said, we got a lot more coming in than we've dished out. So that's going to go back into our reserves, and we're going to be in a better financial position. Hopefully get our days cash on hand back up to around 300 days is the goal. We'll start with our January 31 financials. Just want to briefly look at the profit and loss on page 6.
Sorry, accountants can't let things go. It was $78,000 a day. But I had to come back and tell you that.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to say 80. Anyway, the January, then the electric division, we had a gain of $215,693, gas $657,504, water $751,408, and sewer $13,521. So every division.
I'm assuming water, that's a significant amount.
Oh yeah, most of that's granting.
Grant money.
Yes, sir. Matter of fact, that's gonna be on page 9, $878,000 grant, so that was,
We lost money in water.
minus the grant. Really wanna focus on one major, I don't have it, you know, I look at every line item on the budget when I read financials. We were over budget $594,000 or 18%, and it looks even worse than that in February. But we all remember what happened to natural gas prices in the months of January and February, and the spike in pricing. So if you look at line 6442, the variance there was $558,000 over budget for what we projected. You know, we look at the pricing of gas at the end of the year and kind of get an average, and then we make a conservative effort to bump that up a little bit to try to make our budget in line with what actual costs are going to be. But there was no way we could predict what happened in January. However, we are able to offset that with the price increases in sales, and we did decide, you know, to spread that out and not over time and not tear our customers up with it in 1 month, which hopefully smooth things out for them. And everything as far as capital projects, everything's moving along. We're getting ready to close out some of the SKIP projects. We have received all of our money, our $10.5 million from the state. So they can't withhold any of our money for not spending by the deadline of June 30. So that was good news. We got that in this past month. So that's the January financials. I think we've already seen, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've already seen January and February checks over 3,000, right? The last 2 meetings. Any questions about the January financials? I will move into February. Again, February was a cold month again. By this time, we had received more grant income, most of that being from the SKIP grant. We were at $2.3 million overall in grant income received at the end of February. The electric division, we had a loss of $10,842. Gas, $623,921. Water, $1,020,725. And sewer, a gain of $36,763. The water division, the grant income was $983,000. So they still were in a positive position, but most of that was the grant income also in February. As you see, the O&M G&A budget totals year to date are still ugly based on that one line item of natural gas purchases. It was $1.32 million over budget after 2 months of the year. And so we were $1.2 million over budget, or 20.4%. So really everything's attributed to that one line item. Any questions about the February financials?
Who is Black Tire Company?
Black Tire Service is a vendor through the state procurement policy that we can get tires for a lot cheaper, and they send them directly to a installer here, such as Valvoline or Riverside, and then they install them for us. But we get a lot cheaper pricing from it. Part of the state procurement contract. All right, ready for March?
Yep, let's go to March.
All right, moving on to March. The electric division, on page 6, a loss of $223,302. Shoulder month for the electric division. We know we we have to make up some revenues in the summer months for what we lose in some of the shoulder months. That'll be changing in the next few months. Gas division, another, decent month in March, 471, 342. Water division, 673, 699. And the sewer division, 49,816. I've mentioned it. Almost all but about $11,000 or so. Or actually, less than that, about $7,000 was grant income in the water division. So, they are barely in the positive net position. Things do start looking better overall for our O&M G&A totals. Kind of a more normalized, that's 6442 for the month. We budgeted 263 and it was only actual 213. So back to our normal pricing, which in turn brought us down to being over budget $1,097,000 or 12.4% versus about 20% through the end of March. So we expect everything at this point moving forward, since we're outside of the better winter season that we had, to be more normalized price-wise. 12.4%. No concerns over the budget. Everything else, like I said, I look at every line item just to make sure there's no major outliers or concerns. And I feel like we're in good shape there. As I mentioned, really the skip project as far as the water line, it's done. We know the retainage, but we're waiting on a few things from the contractor. I know Will was talking about some startups and things at the plant, so everything's really in motion to be able to close those major projects out. The state's actually coming in at the end of the month to do some audit on closing out, since we've already received all of our money from them. The rest of the project will be financed with the bonds that we secured in 2024. We should be paying that out over the next few months, so we get everything into operation.
When do we think that new water tank will actually come online? Or when will they start testing it?
Should be mid-June. Should be everything in place. Well, not everything in place. We're still waiting. It'll probably be, I think he said August before we get all 3 pumps available. Then we can run it on one, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, but
We're in good shape. I'm glad we're able to keep the project on track and get the money spent, because I don't think everyone's been able to be as fortunate.
one of the things we said we wanted to do, once we get the fence up and get some landscaping and get it in, have like a grand opening, ribbon cutting or something or other over there, so get it.
I don't think y'all seen the checks over 3,000 for March. I'll be glad to answer them. Any questions about the March financials or the checks over 3,000? A lot of financials. The single audit pushed us back a little bit because it took a lot more work. So Gary was a month behind from when he's normally here.
Y'all understand that's a requirement for those types of grants, require you to have a single audit, so that's why.
We receive over $1 million from a federal funding source like that. We're required to have that single audit.
So we'll have to do a single audit.
Yeah, I mean, the grants are great, but there are a lot of strings and other things that come with them. So that's just one of them. But we feel like we do a good job keeping up with everything throughout the project, and really there were no major concerns or nothing that we couldn't put our hands on right away.
Because Gary's right, it's really a compliance audit. Are you using the money space supposed to?
Anybody got any additional questions for Blake for January, February, or March financials? If not, do I have a motion to approve all 3 months?
Move.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, public forum. I don't believe we have anybody here from the public, so we'll move on to item number 7, recommendation to amend 2026 budget to include salary for grants coordinator position.
Okay, just like we were talking about before, with the mini many grants that we've been fortunate enough to receive over the past 2 or 3 years, there is a significant amount of paperwork on a weekly, monthly basis for that. In addition, Blake didn't want to mention it just yet, but we feel pretty confident about another grant that will allow us to do some underground electric work. And it'll be a fairly significant grant as well. And so it's taken up a lot of people's time in the office. And we would like to amend the 2026 budget to include salary for a grant coordinator. What's the official title?
Grants and special projects.
Special projects. And you've got kind of a dollar figure. I mean, obviously this would be June through December, so it wouldn't be a whole year's salary, but.
Salary range of $60,000 to $65,000.
So really,
If we hired somebody in June, we would be paying about half of that out in this calendar year.
35,000, something like that. So we just needed to go to y'all and get y'all to approve an amendment to the budget to allow us to do that.
And I will mention that, and I didn't say this before, but when we lost our administrative assistant, we absorbed that job into the employee who's doing accounts payable now. So we lost a person in the office, but now with all this going, we really need that extra person back. What she's doing is great and fine for the executive administrative assistant and her accounts payable duty, but we really need somebody. This is a full-time job. And I mean, we've gotten over $30 million in the last 5 years in grant awards. So I think this position will pay for itself over the next several years.
And that'll be one of this person's responsibility too, is to help us identify potential new grants in the future. So we're going to look to that person to kind of keep their ears and eyes open for other potential grants.
We're gonna try to get somebody with experience.
What's that?
We're gonna try to hire everything you hire with experience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we'd like to have, as much experience as we can find. Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion to amend the 2026 budget to include a grants coordinator position?
So moved.
Second.
You move.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
Good, thank you, sir.
All right, moving right along. Number 8, recommendation to approve executive vehicle policy.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I think y'all got a copy of a proposed policy regarding executive vehicles, and that would include Blake, Keith, and myself.
Where's a copy of it?
It should have been in your packet there, on your computer.
It'd be on your computer,
SharePoint.
Gerald.
So, after talking with our brethren, so to speak, at PMPA and SCAMPS and all of that, it seems like the majority of folks in our positions, instead of having a assigned vehicle, they have a vehicle allowance. So I asked Blake to look into what it's costing us for each of us to have a company car. And what was your grand total?
Approximately $15,000 to $16,000 per year per vehicle.
And that's including the depreciation on the vehicle, that's including maintenance, taxes, insurance, and all that sort of thing. In addition, we feel like this would eliminate some liability on the CPW's part for a vehicle accident and that sort of thing. We did talk to a counselor over here. It doesn't feel like there's any additional liabilities or anything like that. The policy does call for the person in that position to have adequate insurance on their vehicles. So we'd have to get proof of that for everyone. But
Now, tell me what this says.
Well, it just says that instead of having a CPW-issued vehicle, that we would pay $1,000 a month so that, you know, they would use their own vehicle around town and that sort of thing, instead of having a company-issued car.
So we would sell the three vehicles that John and Blake and Keith drive. We would sell those vehicles. They will buy their own vehicles. We won't be maintaining a vehicle for them, and we'll just give them a supplement each month for them to purchase their own vehicle. My only question to council would be, you know, my only concern with it was $300,000 worth of liability. If they were to have an accident, you know, God forbid, you know, hurt somebody, kill somebody, and would a good attorney, since we're paying for the vehicle for them, would they include the CPW in a lawsuit if they were sued to sue one of the three of them? And
Well, I mean, as we discussed before, you're gonna sue everybody. You're gonna sue anybody you think you can sue, and I think that was just demonstrated in the lawsuit that was just filed, and they dismissed the CPW. I mean, it's a question of whether, you know, there's any liability on behalf of the CPW. If it's their own vehicles, and they're utilizing it for work, I don't think there would be. Now, I did, as far as the minimum coverages, you know, that could be questioned. I mean, I don't know that that's really, there might need to be more.
that's what
And I would discuss that with, you know, the insurance agents. I mean, but I mean, if you got,
What's the state minimum now? It's low, right?
I don't have it. It hasn't changed for 50 years. 25, 50, 25 is what it is. And it's been that since I've been lawyer. So, I mean, if you got a vehicle with 5 people in it, then everybody in that vehicle is going to sue. The driver's at fault. And everybody in the other vehicle is going to sue.
That's right.
So, you know, you got a.
So they have to have a minimum coverage.
Well, we thought we would make it more than minimum coverage. Minimum, I think, is 25, 50, 25.
25, 50.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it says, you know, the minimum coverages that would be required under this agreement was 100, 300, 100. I mean, what I'm saying is that might need to be looked at to be more. Because, I mean, I worry about the liability of everybody in, you know.
I guess my question is, would the CPW not be more liable for somebody driving a vehicle that the CPW owns versus a vehicle that an individual?
I think so. Yeah. I don't really. If it's a private vehicle, I don't think there would be any liability.
But I can tell you, my dad's in this business. They look for a good attorney looks for whoever has the deepest. They look for whoever has the deepest pockets. And so if you're between 8 and 5 and you have an accident,
Right.
I believe a good attorney is going to sue the CPW, even if it's your private vehicle. That's why I would like for us to at least just to look to see what it would cost to have an umbrella policy for the three of you.
Would the tort liability coverage come into play if they sued CPW for automobile accident?
So,
I mean, we can do that.
I just was curious. It used to be really reasonable, but things are not real reasonable anymore. I mean, before COVID, you could get $1 million umbrella policy on one person for one vehicle for, you know.
About
But you got to max out the liability. You know, before you get the umbrella piece, you have to max out the liability piece to the max. You know, you have to go to 300,000 or whatever the max is, and then the umbrella picks up over that. It used to be like $150 a year I'm sure it's more than that now, but, it used to be pretty reasonable. That would be my only, question to what you presented is, can we look at more liability for the three of you?
That'll be 3 cars, right?
3 cars, yes, sir.
Y'all gonna buy another car, or you gonna try to buy the commission vehicles?
I don't know, we really haven't gotten that far yet, so.
I don't know how many miles
It does reduce our exposure of inappropriate use of vehicles, right? I mean, it's sort
Not
of.
that that would ever come into play.
Right, but but when it's their personal car, it doesn't matter where they're in it, right? Where, our expectation is that if they're driving their commission vehicles, they need to have access to those at any time to come back for issues, right? But the community doesn't realize that. And so I think when we move to like it's their personal vehicle, somebody in the community can't say, I saw John driving his CPW vehicle around. It doesn't matter. I agree with your comments, Mr. Chairman, is that it's worth the effort just to look a little bit, make sure we're properly covered from an exposure standpoint. I also agree with our counsel. I mean, your comments are right too. Or you're just going to name everybody and try to get yourself thrown out of it, right?
So what's the pleasure? Do you want to, we can come back with sit on this for 30 days and think about it? You want to vote on it? Get more information about liability?
I don't think get more information about liability.
My concern is about the liability. Say, if somebody comes to look at a building and they go in John's car, somebody rams them, hurts that man, or whoever the people in the car, who's gonna be responsible?
So if y'all get us some more information about possibly getting an umbrella policy on the three of you, what would that cost to go up to $1 million? And then we'll take this back up at the next meeting.
There's no urgency on this. It's not a problem.
Okay. All right, we're going to table that till the next meeting. Do I have a motion? We go into executive session. So moved. Second? All in favor, raise your right hand.
And Judith, I do expect us to possibly do a resolution when we get back, but I'll give you all the details on it. There are not very many right now. So it has to do with the contract for Geneva, but I haven't actually seen the contract yet. So. Well, I haven't seen the latest version of it yet.
Hey, go back there.
Judith, you want a piece of cake for you, or cake?
Right, it's all right.
You better get on stage, 'cause
Shoot, he's at work.